What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about all of the positives, the pros, the good stuff that I experienced when playing ESports Boxing Club. Now in tomorrow's video we'll focus on more the feedback, the negative side, the things that need to be added, fixed, and things like that. So it's not just going to be one big ass kissing fest. Tomorrow we're going to focus on the things that need to be fixed, so you guys can, mainly listen, but also have a little bit of input with that. But this stuff is going to be the things that, were solid for the build we played. Now, things we talk about is really just going to show that the game is on the right tracks. And when I say it is, I mean it really is on the right tracks. They just need to, sound stupid, but they just need to pick up the speed. These are the kind of things that you guys will be excited to hear. This is the video to get excited about and show that the game is worth the hype that we all hoped it was. So, yeah, without further ado, guys, just remember, the build I played isn't the newest build. So when I talk about the negatives in tomorrow's video, which I'll bring this topic up again, there are things that have already been fixed, but we just didn't get to experience them. But I'm still going to cover it as a whole. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into the pros and the good stuff about ESports Boxing Club from the gameplay that I experienced. So before we get into the actual core gameplay itself, let's talk about the fighters. And this is generally exciting just to talk about. As I mentioned in the first video, the build we played had 11 fighters. Fury Wilder, Joe Lewis, Rocky Marciano at heavyweight. At middleweight, Carl Froch, Caleb Plant. At welterweight, Kell Brook, Arturo Gatti, Conor Benn, Mickey Ward, and Terence Crawford. Now, I used everyone except Wilder, and the reason is because I just got carried away with the welterweight division. I really did. I got carried away with them, and I only used like Rocky once. And the heavyweights, I didn't enjoy as much as the welterweights, and I think like Showbiz, he mentioned, I think someone mentioned, might not have been Showbiz, someone mentioned they loved using Rocky, so it's like it's kind of back and forth with what weight class. For me personally, I just got carried away with the welterweights. Now I'll also be honest, I sucked ass with Rocky Marciano, I really did. Tyson Fury I was pretty decent with, Joe Lewis I was decent with, so it was just the fact that I just happened to miss out using Wilder while playing. Now let's talk about the fighters like Benn, Brook, Crawford, Plant, and Carl Froch. These are the 5 I want to talk about the most. Don't get me wrong, well actually they're all pretty decent, but these are the 5 that I kind of want to mainly focus on just for this little part. When I say this, I really mean it. They really felt like themselves. They really did. They all had characteristics of themselves. When you use Crawford, you were able to utilize his speed and his movement without a doubt. When you were using Froch, you could utilize that granite chin of his. When you were using Brook, he was a little bit slower. Because of his age, he was a little bit slower. But there was times when I was using Brook, I covered up, waited for someone to come in, and as they entered that, as they shifted that weight to come forward, out of nowhere, that straight come down across the chin, lead hook, go back. And that's what I kept doing. That's what I kept doing with Brook. I was utilizing the tools he had. With Benn, I was like, this guy's got some good power. He can put his combinations together. So when I used Benn, that's what I done. Kept dropping low with the straights and coming up with some of the hooks and some of the uppercuts. And these fighters, for once, they really felt like themselves. I think I used Crawford, then I immediately used Brook. And that first round, when I tried to use Brook the same way I used Crawford, absolute disaster. Couldn't get nothing off. I was trying to out jab. No chance. There was no chance. Whereas when I was Brook, I was able to utilize the tools he had. Same as when I was Tyson Fury. I was able just to move around that ring and just boom, boom, just jab at Wilder's head, just get out the way of that range a little bit, bang. And it was just the fighters. For once, guys, and I say this hand on my heart, especially with these ones that we're going to talk about, they really feel like themselves. Plant has this, he's the only fighter that has it in the build we played. He has this Philly shell, and it is one of the most visually stunning things to look at in a video game. The way Plant moves, I mean, all their movement is good. The way they shift weight is very, Crawford is very fast on his feet. Conor Benn, he can walk people down a little bit better. Brook, he's not as fast, but he's definitely got that. He's definitely got a bit of a snap in his step, which is brilliant. Plant, he really walks people down, and if you shift off weight quickly, he switches stance, boom, 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 and then he's back to his normal pose, and he's back going again. And it's just watching Plant move, and not to mention the loose movement. Let's talk about the loose movement quickly on these fighters, especially Plant. I'm going to explain the loose movement more in a future video. The loose movement does a few things, but like I said, I'm going to explain it in another video. However, this time, when you're with Plant and he's in loose movement, same with Carl Froch, is that they go from this, and then when they're in loose movement, they drop their hands, and they're a bit more showboat. And if you back step, they put their hands behind their back, and they do this. And you know, when you're Plant and you're moving, he's doing all this, and he's slipping. He's when he's stepping, he's not just stepping like this. He's boom, 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 stepping left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, and he's showboat moving around the ring, and he's doing this little hop step, going backwards thing, and then he's shifting his weight. And honestly, Plant's movement is like, I mean, it's Caleb Plant, yeah, there's better movers out there, of course there is. But that is so exciting. Watching him move like that, I was just like, oh my god, this is so exciting. Like, this is so exciting to watch him move like this. Honestly, like, at one point, I was facing one of the developers, Varos, you'll know him as on the Discord, and he was using Froch and I was using Caleb Plant. And we both said, should we just have like 5 rounds, just pure loose movement? And we did, and it was just like really, you know, a lot of showboat, and I was, you know, trying to snap that jab out, and Froch was moving around, and he was walking down with his hands down. But Plant's loose movement and Fury's was my highlight, because those guys were so slick in their loose movement, and it suited them as a fighter. Some fighters, it doesn't suit too well. Crawford, it suits well, but like, say like Brook, I wouldn't say loose movement suits him as well, but it's good to have it. It's not as wild and sporadic as, say, Plant's loose movement. It's good to have it, but like Plant and Fury and Crawford, those were the highlights of the loose movement, especially, you know, like with Plant, when you're in loose movement and you rock someone, when you're in the loose movement and he's in this shell, he puts his hands here and he walks like flat-footed, like kind of egging you on with his head to, like, you know, get that counter going again. It's brilliant. Like, that is like the movement and the fighters themselves. That's probably probably the highlight, as you can tell from my excitement just talking to you guys about it. Now, again, just before we get into the gameplay, I'm going to cover a few things that are just more, you know, they are about the game, but they're not pure gameplay focused. Now, first things first is the real-time clock. It's a real-time clock, so it's 3-minute round. It's 3 minutes in real life. So when I fought the full distance, I fought for 36 minutes, and I done it twice. So, but this is just awesome. It's just, honestly, guys, honestly, it's just epic. I like to be more articulate in these videos, but I just have to say, it's fucking awesome. I really do, but I'll be more articulate after this. I just have to say that. The Get Up minigame works well, simple, contains a bunch of factors from the amount of damage you've taken throughout the fight, not just how many drops you've had, how much damage you've taken throughout the fight, if you've been down before, like, badly, the shot you've taken, your character's stats, like courage, head health, body health. It has so many things. I'll put a little icon up, and the little red things, they move either slowly or sporadically, and the little arrows you'll see on the side, you have to get those in, and you'll fill up the green bar on the top. So it's very simple. It's a very intuitive mini game, but it works brilliantly for the style of the game. There's no, like, second you're down, it cuts to like an overhead view, looking down at your fighter, like getting up. He's like laying on his back or on his side, or he's taking a knee, and then he starts to get back up, and then it will, you know, get to the number, and then it will get back up. But of course, it's a very early build, so these things are all bound to be improved as well. But there's just a intuitive, easy to use mini game that works well. Corner having no minigame is solid, expected. Like I've mentioned, you have it switches between the fighters, so you'll see, like, you know, Crawford, like, breathing, then it'll switch to Ben, and he'll be like breathing heavy, and then it will say, you know, like left side will be Crawford, right side will be Ben. It will say health recovery, stamina recovery. Then there's an icon for a head, a body, cuts and bruises, and there'll be yellow, orange, or red. In this build we played, they didn't actually show the yellow, orange, or red. It just showed the icons, but in the future it will show the yellow, orange, and red. And the corner looks nice. The characters look visually brilliant. You can see, like, the back of when Dave Coldwell was there, he actually says, "It's at the back of my head," and he actually noticed himself, and he's there talking to Ben, saying, you know, come on, and you know, whatever it may, you know, whoever he may be cornering in that fight now fight. The judging idea is brilliant. There's 40 named judges. Of course, not all 40 real judges, but 40 named judges. They all think and act differently, from things like volume, significant strikes, counters, ring generalship. I went to decision twice, and these are the 2 scorecards. I'm going to read them off to you. So I fought one of the top QAs, then I fought the champion. So against one of the top QAs, both of these fights, by the way, were Crawford versus Crawford, just because we wanted to have that even balance where we could go, do well and just fight. So against one of the top QAs, obviously I'm not going to say his name, it was 113 to 111 to him, 112 to 112, and 115 to 109 to him. He won by majority decision. Then when I fought the champion of the office, it was 115 to 115, 118 to 115 and 118 to 110. Yet again, I lost by majority decision against both guys, but I didn't care because it was so much fun. Honestly, I don't want to be that guy that's just like screaming at the mic, like so much fun, so much fun. But honestly, I was like, oh, you know, respect, good game, man. That was fucking awesome. Like, such a laugh. Like, being able to both, when I was fighting the champ, you know, we were like 6 rounds in, he was like, it's been a pretty cagey fight so far, man. He was like, and then when I put up the pressure, he was like, you're putting on the pressure here. No, he had to change his game plan. Just honestly, it's a fantastic game to have a really realistic time with, and that's what games should be, in my opinion. Fighting games need to be realistic, and this proves it. The amount of fun, great fights we had prove that these games need to be realistic for sure. We're going to talk about the gameplay itself and the pros of it. Now, of course, it is difficult to describe things without showing you visual gameplay, which of course I can't do. And, you know, I'm not going to like go outside and record myself in the back garden. So I'm going to try and get it across as well as possible so you guys can envisage it with me. So the movement itself, we'd seen the alpha movement trailer. The movement itself just works. It's just brilliant. They shift weight properly. They don't just suddenly glide backwards, glide forward. You know, we're obviously talking about Fight Night and UFC. They actually shift weight. You see the knee push down and they push them back. Same to the side, same to, you know, both sides. Same when you're going forward. That back foot will push you forward and you'll step. Legs don't cross over. The weight, and if you're like going forward, say if you're going forward, jab, 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 and you want to step back, you won't just suddenly go back. You'll stop. That front foot will kind of tighten up and that'll push you back, and then your fighter will come back like that. There is no like just perfectly gliding back and forth. It's all about shifting that weight when you're fighting. And that's one thing about the movement I love the most, is it really looks like you are watching a real fight, and you feel, it's crazy that you feel more in control than you do in a UFC game, because you have so much freedom. There's no restriction on how you want to move your fighter. And you have to take into consideration that you can't just enter the pocket and disappear. You have to make sure that maybe you're entering at a slight coming down to throw a shot down here, so their shot goes over, you can land a second one, and if you just come in straight, you're going to get tagged, of course, because you've got to shift the weight to go backwards. So the movement itself works brilliantly and definitely starts the game off on the right track when you're first playing, and you come from the corners and you're moving and you're watching that movement, especially with Fury. You know, he's doing this, like, you know, he's doing this movement, and that's just his natural movement. It really starts the game and every fight you have off very well. It really does. Like I mentioned, I'm going to talk about loose movement more, but the switch to loose movement is flawless. You literally just press up on the D-pad and it switches to loose movement. And like I said, some fighters just are amazing in it. You know, if I'm out striking someone, switching to that loose movement with, say, plant, then I can start to move around a bit freer, a bit faster, maybe hands down, a little bit risk to reward, but hands down. I'm showboating. I'm sporadic then at this point. I'm all over. They don't know what's going to come, and then, you know, it adds another layer to the game. Sometimes you might even be down and you might have to use the loose movement to kind of, your opponent's like, okay, now this is a lot of like sporadic movements, lots of, you know, feints, and you got that more freedom, like when you're on your back foot and you're kind of twisting around. The fighter moves a bit quicker in the loose movement. You can change into the loose movement when you hurt someone. You can chase them down a bit faster. The switch between standard movement and loose movement works, in my opinion, pretty flawlessly. There is a couple of issues. I will mention, obviously, negatives in another video. There is a few issues where if you press it, and then you want to get out of it within the same, 10 seconds, it does tend to then try and, just not let you do it. It just makes you torn, which is not great. But in the loose movement, say I'm in loose movement and I'm like this, I can go down and left, and I'll do like this big taunt, or I'll do a little shimmy, or I'll do like this, or I'll do that one where he opens that and he looks for the punch. There is taunts and they are cool, but as of right now, the loose movement, leaving it isn't as clean as entering it. Now, striking, there's a few more things that I'll talk about in a feedback sense, as in I don't want to say negative as in like being a bitch, but more in a negative sense for some of the striking. The striking as a whole works well. Fighting on the inside does work very well. The body shots are a bit overpowered, I mentioned it before, but you can get on the inside and you can do some nice stuff. I'm going to mention more negatives in another video. I don't want to pile them on this video. But as a whole, when I played the champ and we had a very sim fight, we used our jabs a lot. We utilised it. We ended up doing damage with the jabs. And there's no shot that looks clunky. One thing I want to just say quickly is what kind of blows my mind is people will come into the comments of my videos, Fanaticos, whoever, and be like, these punches look robotic. Now, one thing people need to understand is people that say that are idiots. And this isn't me defending ESports Boxing Club, but one thing you have to realise, guys, is every punch is done by a professional fighter. They mocap them for a reason. So there is never a punch that's done lazily on a shitty program. It's all mocapped by professional fighters, current world champions, former world champions. So I don't get this thing where it's like it looks robotic. It really didn't. It all looked clean. Of course, there were some things that didn't land when they should have, but as a striking as a whole, you can utilize every tool. The power punches aren't like these big wind-ups like this. You know, say like you got a hook like that. When you want to throw a power hook, it will come over a bit more and maybe a bit slower, but there's no huge wind-up like this. When you want to throw the uppercut, you know, you'll kind of do this from the inside. Power uppercut, you'll kind of twist that shoulder towards them a bit more, and you'll come up with that stronger uppercut, as it should be. The only thing that wasn't utilised as well for many of us was the feints. Now, I was able to utilise the feints quite well because the striking gave me the freedom to make myself predictable in a sense, where I would throw a lot of lead hooks. Then when people start thinking, oh, he throws a lead hook, I'd feint the lead hook, uppercut, as people would duck down and they'd eat the uppercut. Then the lead hook comes back over again. And the striking, the fluidity of it is very nice. Both inside and outside fighting, coming in, going out, coming in, going out. It flows well. It doesn't feel like I'm here and I'm stuck and then like this slow. I can come in and bang, bang, step back again, back at range, jab, jab, come back in, bang. And the fluidity from the inside to outside fighting, while like I said, there are things where like things miss, things aren't as clean as they should be. That's just based on the build, and I'll talk about that in the next video. But as a flow, as the fluidity of it, the striking is really clean. There was not a time where I was like, this feels clunky, this feels a bit stiff. There are a few things, like I said, that I'll mention in another video that do feel stiff, but the fluidity of the striking definitely didn't. I felt like I had a wide variety. And the check hook, guys, let me tell you, the check hook is one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a video game. It's so simple to do. All you have to do is just, if you want your lead hand, so I'm a southpaw, for example, so all I have to do is move myself that way, and as someone enters, I move away, bang, check hook, they're over there, I'm over here. Honestly, the check hook is fucking brilliant. That's one thing that I have to sing their praises for, is the checks and the fighting backwards and the fighting on the back foot, and as well as stepping in, stepping out, and stepping to the side. All of those are different strikes, by the way. All different. They all look different. Really, really clean shit for sure. Flash drops are nice. You know, we saw a few flash drops. We didn't see many to the head. I saw a flash stun to the head that was like out of nowhere, round one. Someone stepped in, and as they stepped in, they got caught with a straight, and it stunned their head. But a lot of flash drops were like slip. As someone throws the shot goes over here, so their arm is extended, leaves this open, bang to the body, and they take a knee, they seize down, and fuck, you know, and the flash drops are really nice, and you learn your lesson not to get caught with that again. Doesn't mean your fighter gets up and he's got damage, he might not have any damage, but it's just that flash drop like that and an instinct that would happen, you know, if you leave this open and you get hit here, it's gonna hurt, man, it's gonna hurt. Counters are nice, but this is a 50-50 issue. But 50% of what I'm going to talk about is not going to be spoken about. It will be in the next video with the feedback. Counters to the body, though, are really nice. They're really nice. The pullback counter, I'm going to mention the weaves in another video, could be a bit better. But if you pull and the jabs kind of like does that and you launch the straight down, really nice. It will push someone's head back. Then you have that few second window to come in maybe and throw a body shot or throw a hook to the head. So counters are a bit 50-50, but when it does work, the counters are really crisp. But I'll talk about it more. I'll talk about, you know, some of the bad stuff in my feedback kind of bad things video. Like I said, counters to the body, you could almost call them perfect. They really are. Like if you really slip and land it, or if you drop down as the hook comes and bang, it's really counters to the body. They're right where they need to be. They just need to tone the damage to the body down a little bit because it's a bit overpowered in general, but the counters to the body, and in terms of damage the counters to the body do, is really nice. If you're an MMA guy, maybe like Jose Aldo and Jeremy Stevens, it's a good example of kind of that bang to the body and, you know, oh fuck, and, you know, Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell, that one body shot, you know, so those are how it feels, and that's how it looks in comparison to kind of real life fights. Now, more in terms of gameplay, the ability to change game plan is brilliant. Really something that more games need to do. You can change just on instant, and it's very obvious when you change game plans. That's what makes it so brilliant. For example, when I fought Reese, our first fight, I was Tyson Fury, he was Deontay Wilder. I'm going to watch out for that big hand, of course. I was able to use the outside fighting really well, and it worked well. However, when I fought Ash, the owner, he loves outside fighting. So I was like, okay, I got to mix up the game plan. And, he's outside fighting, he's rotating around, so what do? I cut off the ring. Maybe I cut off the ring and utilise this backhand to the body, or this backhand head. Or, as I know that he's going to jab me when I come towards him, I'll feint him into throwing his shot, then I'll come in, boop, boop, and move away. And it was awesome to fight those different styles. Same as when I fought the Office champion. I felt free and it felt flawless to change game plans a few times. We had some where it was, we were countering each other. Then we had some where it was very jab heavy, very cagey. I was leading, so a lot of the time I would kind of wait, I'd wait, and I'd lead with the lead hook, then I'd come with the straight, then back step. So I'd catch him with 2 shots, back step, gather myself, jab to the body maybe, jab to the head, and move, and move, and move. And we had a few rounds where he was like, that's a cagey round, because we'd be playing kind of footsie with each other, and obviously shifting the weight, and, a lot of the times we'd just be jabbing at each other. And, then it started to get to the point where we were trying to slip each other's jabs to be able to, boom, and it was just brilliant, and it worked, it does work well. Now, those are kind of my pros from the fighters to the general game, like I said, about, get-ups and corners and stuff, to the gameplay itself. Of course, there are negatives that I will mention in another video, and there are things that need to be fixed. We've given feedback. We got to speak to Ash, the owner, and we got to speak to the developers, and I'm not going to give you their names, obviously. We got to speak to them, and we were face-to-face with them. They weren't butthurt, by the way, guys. They weren't butthurt by feedback whatsoever. They were very open, and in a sense they were happy to hear this and hear that, because they asked me and I was like, oh, guys, this is the nuts, like this is actually the nuts. However, this could be sorted, this could be sorted, this could be added, blah 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 blah. So yeah, I thought I'd give you my pros, and you can kind of get excited for it. Then the next video we'll talk about maybe some feedback, some negatives, so you guys can see where I'm at. And like I said, I think people have got this misconception where I'm here to kiss their ass. I'm absolutely not. I want the game out, but I want it to be bloody good. So me kissing their ass doesn't help. And trust me, guys, if when there was issues like with counters, as an example that you'll hear more about in the next video, if I just sat there and was like, oh guys, this counter that missed, that's brilliant, that's the way it should be. Absolutely not. I told them that, and they were very open, and they were like in the new build, and there's something we're jotting down, and one of the devs was writing notes the whole 2 days, constantly, everything we brought up, notes. So they're always working on it, and it really shows. But so far, where I'm at, where the game is at, guys, as an overhaul, I mentioned to Reese, one of the developers, that I know that 50%, 60% of you guys would happily pay £20, £30 to play this build with 11 fighters, few issues. But I know that's how confident I am with the core gameplay. That when you don't have there was a few issues where you literally pause and unpause and it fixes it. But when you have these great rounds, honestly, guys, I'd pay for it right now. If I could have it here, I'd pay for it right now. That's how confident I am with that. They are so on the right track. It's almost insane. People are going to say, what's your prediction for release? Shut up. Just shut up. But they're so on the right track, it's insane. You just know that they're just there. They just got to pick up the speed. They just got to keep this gameplay that they've got as a core and just build on it and just fix things that need to be fixed and just go with it. And it's fair play to them. They've done a fucking cracking job. They really have. And I very much look forward to seeing what else is in the future. But tomorrow's video, I'll be talking about some more negatives and some feedback for the guys over at Steel City. So hopefully, maybe that will help more. And hopefully with this video, they've got an idea of what works well. And in the next video, they'll know what maybe doesn't work too well. And I look forward to that video. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. And I hope this has shown you guys that this game isn't just all hype and smoke and mirrors. It really is a playable product. And it is an early build, of course, and there are bugs, but there are bugs in games that some of us pay 60 quid for. So, it's just, they're on the right tracks, and that's the way to look at it, I think. And, it's not like, for me, I didn't look at it and I wasn't in secret, oh, this game is a fucking disaster. I was buzzing, guys, buzzing. Every fight I had was so much fun. It really was. But yeah, thank you as always for watching, guys. And yeah, tomorrow's video I'll do some like feedbacks and negatives, and then maybe after that we're going to talk about like loose movement in more detail and things like that. So thank you as always for watching. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.